안녕하세요. 김원장의 인사이트입니다. 3월 23일 현지 시간으로 일론머스크가 오스틴에서 테라팹에 대해서 발표했습니다. 여기서 테라팹이란 1000기가와트 규모의 AI 칩을 생산하는 초대형 반도체 공장을 말합니다. 일론머스크가 말하는 테라팹은 AI 시대에 필요한 칩을 한 번에 폭발적으로 생산하는 공장을 말합니다. 현재 전세계 AI 컴퓨팅 생산량이 약 20기가와트 수준입니다. 일론머스크가 생산하는 것은 1000기가와트급으로 지금의 수백 배에 달합니다. 그래서 결론은 기존의 반도체 공장으로는 절대 못 따라가니까 테라팹을 직접 만들겠다는 겁니다. 이런 내용에 대해서 일론 머스크가 자세히 설명을 했습니다. 지금부터 그 내용을 요약 설명해 드리겠습니다. 그리고 연설하는 전체 영상도 자막을 달아 올리도록 하겠습니다. 꼭 끝까지 보셔서 제가 미처 전하지 못한 일론 머스크의 인사이트를 가져가시기 바랍니다. 지금부터 일론 머스크의 연설 내용을 가급적 쉽게 설명드리겠습니다. 오늘은 정말 스케일 자체가 다른 이야기입니다. 일론 머스크가 직접 밝힌 인류의 미래 그리고 우주산업의 끝판왕 프로젝트에 대한 내용입니다. 이건 단순한 기술 얘기가 아니라 인류 문명의 방향 자체를 바꾸는 이야기입니다. 먼저 한 가지 질문을 드려보겠습니다. 지금 우리가 쓰고 있는 전력, 지구 전체 문명이 쓰는 에너지 규모가 태양 에너지 대비 얼마나 될까요? 놀랍게도 1조 분의 1 수준입니다. 우리는 사실상 태양 에너지를 거의 못 쓰고 있는 상태입니다. 그래서 일론 머스크는 이렇게 말합니다. 문명의 성장은 결국 에너지 규모의 성장이다. 그래서 등장하는 개념이 바로 카르다셰프의 문명 단계입니다. 1단계 문명은 이 지구 행성 에너지를 전체를 활용할 수 있는 정도 수준을 1단계 문명이라고 하고요. 2단계 문명은 태양계 항성 에너지 전체를 사용할 수 있는 수준을 2단계라고 하고요. 3단계 문명은 은하 전체 에너지를 활용하는 단계를 말합니다. 그럼 우리는 아직 1단계 문명도 다 사용하지 못하고 있는 거죠. 여기서 머스크가 던지는 핵심 메시지는 지구는 너무 작다입니다. 그래서 지구는 태양계 질량의 0.000몇% 수준밖에 되지 않으니까 그냥 먼지 같은 수준입니다. 그래서 우리는 반드시 우주로 나가야 한다. 이게 바로 오늘의 이야기 핵심입니다. 인류를 다행성 종족으로 만든다는 것입니다. 달에도 도시를 건설하고 화성에도 도시를 건설하고 태양계 또 다른 행성에도 도시를 건설하는 그런 다행성 종족 말입니다. 이건 더 이상 SF 얘기가 아니라 현실 프로젝트입니다. 일론 머스크는 화성에 도시를 건설하겠다는 거고 달에도 도시를 건설하겠다는 겁니다. 그럼 이걸 어떻게 해야 가능하냐? 답은 단 하나입니다. 에너지, 컴퓨팅, 우주를 합치는 겁니다. 첫 번째, 에너지에서 지구는 한계가 있습니다. 왜냐하면 땅도 부족하고 전력망도 한계가 있습니다. 환경 규제도 존재합니다. 하지만 우주는 다릅니다. 항상 태양계 빛이 존재하고 대기도 없으며 효율이 극대화됩니다. 따라서 밤낮도 없습니다. 우주가 훨씬 싸고 효율적인 에너지 공간입니다. 그래서 우주 대기권에 데이터 센터를 만든다면 24시간 풍부한 태양광 에너지를 전력으로 생산해서 데이터 센터를 돌릴 수 있는 것입니다. 두 번째는 컴퓨팅입니다. 현재 전 세계 AI 컴퓨팅 규모는 약 20기가와트 수준입니다. 근데 일론 머스크가 말하는 목표는 테라와트급이니까 지금의 수십 배가 아닌 수백 배에 달하는 완전히 다른 차원의 컴퓨팅 수준입니다. 그래서 나온 것이 바로 초대형 반도체 공장이에요. 오스틴에 만드는 이 공장은 단순한 공장이 아니라 설계, 제조, 테스트, 수정 이 모든 과정을 한 건물에서 반복합니다. 이게 왜 중요하냐면 속도 때문입니다. 설계, 테스트, 수정이 이 사이클이 빠르면 빠를수록 AI 속도 자체가 폭발적으로 빠르게 성장할 수 있습니다. 세 번째, 우주 운송에서 여기서 가장 중요한 건 스타쉽입니다. 우주로 물자를 대량으로 보내지 못하면 문명 확장은 불가능하다고 합니다. 그래서 목표가 연간 1000만 톤을 우주로 보내는 것입니다. 지금 기준으로는 상상이 안 되는 규모를 말합니다. 그리고 여기서 진짜 중요한 포인트는 앞으로 AI는 지상보다 우주에서 돌아갈 가능성이 높습니다. 왜냐하면 전력은 무제한에 가깝고 냉각 효율도 높으며 비용도 매우 낮아지게 됩니다. 그래서 일론 머스크는 2, 3년 안에 우주에서 데이터 센터가 돌아가게 되고 그러면 데이터 센터 돌아가는 그 비용이 훨씬 더 싸질 수 있다는 얘기입니다. 그리고 마지막 단계는 진짜 압도적입니다. 달에서 발사하는 시스템입니다. 달은 중력이 지구의 6분의 1이며 대기가 없습니다. 그래서 로켓 없이도 물체를 우주로 보낼 수 있습니다. 이걸 이용하면 비용이 또 한 번 급락합니다. 그러려면 달에 공장을 지어야 합니다. 결론적으로 일론 머스크가 그리는 그림은 우주 태양광을 활용하는 에너지 확보, 우주 데이터 센터를 우주에 가동하는 거, 그 다음에 스타쉽을 이용해서 대량의 물자를 달이나 화성으로 보내서 거기서 공장을 지어서 옵티머스 로봇이 노동을 대체하는 겁니다. 그러고 나면 그 결과는 풍요의 시대에 접어들게 된다는 겁니다. 미래에는 돈이 필요 없을 수도 있습니다. 왜냐하면 AI와 로봇이 우리가 인간이 욕구하는 모든 물자를 충분히 생산을 하게 되기 때문입니다. 원하는 것은 모두 가질 수 있으니까 돈이 필요가 없게 되는 거죠. 심지어 화성이나 토성 여행도 누구나 가능한 시대, 그것이 일론 머스크가 그리고 있는 미래입니다. 정리해보자면 이 프로젝트에서는 인류를 지구에서 벗어나게 하는 다행성 종족이 돼야 하고, 태양광 에너지를 모두 활용할 수 있어야 하고, AI와 옵티머스 로봇이 노동을 대체하면서 경제를 재구성하는 것입니다. 여기서 투자 관점을 보면 핵심 키워드는 명확합니다. 우주산업, AI 인프라는 XAI, 전기차 로봇은 테슬라입니다. 그 다음에 초대형 팹을 만들어서 반도체를 생산하는 겁니다. 이건 단순한 기술이 아니라 문명의 스케일이 바뀌는 터닝 포인트가 될 것으로 그렇게 보여집니다. 앞으로 이 흐름을 어떻게 봐야 할지, 그리고 실제 투자 기회는 어디에 있는지 다음 영상에서 좀 더 깊게 다뤄보도록 하겠습니다. 이 영상 업로드 후에 일론머스크 연설하는 전체 영상을 자막을 달아 업로드 할 테니 꼭 보셔서 제가 미처 전해드리지 못한 일론머스크의 인사이트를 모두 가져가시기 바랍니다. 이상 김원장의 인사이트를 마치겠습니다. 끝으로 좋아요, 구독, 알람 꼭 눌러주시기 바랍니다. 여러분들이 눌러주시는 좋아요, 구독, 알람은 저에게 큰 힘이 됩니다.
Universe. And that's the motivation to accelerate humanity's future in understanding the universe and extending the light of consciousness to the stars. Well, we have a profoundly important announcement to make, which is the most epic shipbuilding exercise in history by far. This is really going to take things to the next level. So, yeah, a level probably people aren't even contemplating right now. This is not in the, I would call this sort of an out of context problem. It's not in their context. So we're going to adjust the context by a few orders of magnitude here. Let's see. It's a joint effort. I'm pressing the button. But the button's not working. Oh, there we go. Okay. So, yeah, we aspire to be a galactic civilization. So I think the future that everyone, well, most people I think would agree is the most exciting is one where we are out there among the stars, where we are not forever confined to one planet, that we become a multi-planet species, like the best science fiction that you've ever read. You know, Star Trek, or Ian Banks, or Asimov, or Heinlein. And we want to make that real. Yeah, not just fiction. Turn science fiction to science fact. That's the glorious, exciting future that I certainly look forward to. It's worth considering sort of like, how would you rate civilizations? You know, there was a physicist, I think it was Russian, in the 60s, Kardashev. He thought about, at a high level, how would you consider any given civilization? And he said, well, if you're type 1, you're using most of the energy of your planet. And we actually still have quite a ways to go to be properly a type 1. We're still using a tiny fraction of the sun's energy that reaches our planet. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. But the Earth only receives about 500 millionth of the sun's energy. So the sun is truly enormous. The sun is 99.8% of all mass in the solar system. So sometimes people will ask me, like, what about, other power sources of power on Earth? Like, what about fusion on Earth? Well, that is unfortunately very small because the sun is 99.8% of mass in the solar system. And Jupiter is about 0.1%, and Earth is in the miscellaneous category. We are, I think it's Carl Sagan, I think might have said, Earth is like a tiny dust mote in a vast darkness. Very, very small. The sun is enormous. So the way to actually scale civilization is to scale power in space. This is necessarily true because we actually capture such a tiny amount of the sun's energy on Earth because we're just this tiny dust mote. Another way to think of it is roughly like electricity production on Earth of all of civilization is only about 1/trillionth of the sun's energy, which means if you increase civilizational power output by 1 million, you would still only be 1 millionth of the sun's energy. I mean, it's awe-inspiring to consider that, just how tiny we are in the grand scheme of things. And we often get sort of caught up in these sort of squabbles on Earth that are really very sort of minor things when you consider the grandness of the universe. And so I think it is important actually to consider the grandness of the universe and what we can do that is much greater than what we've done before, as opposed to worry about sort of small squabbles on Earth type of thing. Kind of not much point in that. We want to be a civilization that expands to the galaxy with spaceships that anyone can go anywhere they want at any time. That would be epic. And have a city on the moon, cities on Mars, populate the solar system, and send spaceships to other star systems. That sounds like the best possible future. So to do that, we need to harness the power of the sun. And so a terafab, while it is enormous, a terawatt of compute per year is enormous by our sort of civilizational standards. It is still just one step along the way of being even a Carter ship. You still have a long way to go to even be a Carter ship 2 level civilization, and you're not even registering as a Carter ship 3. So it's a very big thing by current human standards, but still small in the grand scheme. It's very difficult for humans. So to accomplish this very difficult goal really requires a combination of efforts of SpaceX, XAI, and Tesla working together to create this epic Terafab project. So. And Tesla and XAI and SpaceX have all done amazing things that people did not think would be done before. So there's the Giga Texas fab here. There's the Optimus robot that's being built. There's a global supercharging network. There's really quite a lot. And it wasn't that long ago when people thought electric cars wouldn't amount to anything. And there were basically no electric cars for sale when Tesla started. And people said it was impossible, and now Tesla's making 2 million electric cars a year. Yeah. And then XAI, although it's a new company, now part of SpaceX, has also built the first gigawatt-scale compute cluster, which in record time. Jensen Huang from NVIDIA said he'd never seen anything built so fast in his life before. So a great compliment from NVIDIA. And then SpaceX, well, I guess you can read it for yourself. Well, you already know. I mean, the reusable rockets, people said that reusable rockets weren't possible, and even if you did do them, they wouldn't be economically feasible. So we did them, and then we made them economically feasible. And now we've landed over 500 times. Then we did the Falcon Heavy, and now we're doing Starship. And Starship is a critical piece of the puzzle, because in order to scale compute and scale power, you have to go to space, which means that you need massive payload to space. And Starship will enable that. So this gives you sort of just a sense of scale. We've got Optimus there, Optimus for scale. Optimus is about 5'11", so it gives you a sense of the size of the Starship V3 rocket. Starship V4 will be much longer, actually. The Starship V4 will make Starship V3 look kind of short. So we'll expand with Starship V3 to 200 tons of payload to orbit, from 100 tons with V3. And then you can see that that's just a rough approximation of the AI, the mini version of the AI sat. So that's roughly 100 kilowatts. It's showing the solar panels and the radiator to scale. So for some reason, there's been a bizarre debate about radiators in space. It's safe to say SpaceX knows how to do heat rejection in space with 10,000 satellites in orbit. Might know a thing or two. So you can see the radiator is actually quite small relative to the solar panels. And we call that the mini-sat, since that's just 100 kilowatts. We expect future satellites to probably go to the megawatt range. Yeah. So in order to get to the terawatt of compute per year, you need about 10 million tons to orbit per year, and at 100 kilowatts per ton. So, but we're confident this is feasible. Like, no new physics or impossible things are required to get there. So I'm confident actually that SpaceX will get to 10 million tons to orbit per year. And then we're building up to a terawatt of solar. So that will solve the solar problem, the power generation. So then the key missing ingredient is therefore a terawatt of compute. So this announcement is about solving the key missing ingredient. To give you a sense of what we're talking about, the current output of AI compute is roughly 20 gigawatts per year. This chart explains why we need to build the Terafab. Because all of the rest of the output from Earth is about 2% of what we need. So if you add up all the fabs on Earth combined, they're only about 2% of what we need for the terawatt project, or Terafab project. So, you know, we certainly want our existing supply chain to be clear. We're very grateful to our existing supply chain, to Samsung, TSMC, Micron, and others. And we would like them to expand as quickly as they can, and we will buy all of their chips. I have said these exact words to them. But there's a maximum rate at which they're comfortable expanding, but that rate is much less than we would like. And so we either build the Terafab or we don't have the chips. And we need the chips, so we're going to build the Terafab. And we're starting off with an advanced technology fab. here in Austin. And I believe Governor Abbott is in the audience. I'd like to thank Governor Abbott and the state of Texas for their support. All right. So in the Advanced Technology Fab, we will have all of the equipment necessary to make a chip of any kind, logic or memory, and we will also have all of the equipment necessary to make the lithography masks. So in a single building, we can create a lithography mask, make the chip, test the chip, make another mask, and have an incredibly fast recursive loop for improving the chip design. To the best of my knowledge, this doesn't exist anywhere in the world, where you've got everything necessary to build logic, memory, and do packaging, and test it, and then do the masks, improve the masks, and just keep looping it. So, and we're not just going to do conventional compute in this. I think there's some very interesting new physics that is potentially, that actually I'm confident will work. It's just a question of when. So this is we're really going to push the limit of physics in compute. And we're going to try a bunch of wild and crazy things, which you can do if you've got that fast iteration loop. That I can't emphasize enough the importance of being able to make a chip, test it, and then change the design, do another one, and have that in a single building. I think that our recursive improvement with that situation is probably an order of magnitude better than anything else in the world. Yeah. So broadly speaking, we expect to make two kinds of chips. One will be optimized for edge and inference. So that'll be used primarily in Optimus and in the cars, but especially in Optimus, because I expect the robots, humanoid robots, to be made 10 to 100 times more than the volume of cars. So, you know, if vehicle production on Earth is about 100 million vehicles a year, and I expect humanoid robot production to be somewhere between 1 billion and 10 billion units a year. So it's a lot. So, yeah, Tesla's going to make a very significant percentage of those, is our goal. And then we need a high-power chip that is designed for space, that takes into account the more difficult environment in space, where you've got high power, you've got high energy ions, photons, you've got electron buildup. It's a hostile environment in space. So you want to design the chip, you want to optimize it for space. And you also want to generally run it a little hotter than you would normally run a chip on Earth to minimize the radiator mass. So there are just a bunch of constraints that you design something differently in space than you would on the ground. And for the space compute, my guess is that is the vast majority of the compute, because you're power constrained on Earth. That's why I think it's probably 100 to 200 gigawatts a year of terrestrial chips, and probably on the order of a terawatt of chips in space, just because of power constraints on the ground. That's probably how it ends up. Space has this advantage that it's always sunny. It's very nice. So I actually think that the cost of AI and deploying AI in space will drop below the cost of terrestrial AI much sooner than most people expect. I think it may be only 2 or 3 years before it is actually lower cost to send AI chips to space than it is on the ground. Because in space you don't need much in the way of batteries, because of it's always sunny. And the solar power, you're going to get at least 5 or more times the solar power you get in space versus the ground, because you don't have atmospheric attenuation or a day-night cycle or seasonality. And you're always normal to the sun. So you're really maximizing the solar power at that point. And space solar actually costs less than terrestrial solar because you don't need heavy glass or framing to protect it from extreme weather events. So as soon as the cost to orbit drops to a low number, it immediately makes extremely compelling sense to put AI in space. It becomes a no-brainer, basically. Moreover, as you go to space, you get increased economies of scale and things get easier over time, whereas as you try to put more and more power on the ground, you run out of space. And you start using up the easy spots, and then you get next level NIMBY. Nobody wants the thing in their backyard. So actually increasing power on Earth becomes harder over time and more expensive over time, but in space it becomes actually cheaper and easier over time. These are very important points. So. Yeah. So what you just saw there was, because of course you're asking what's on your mind is, well, what do you do after a Terafab? Don't think small. Well, yeah, good point. So we, how do you get to a petawatt is the obvious next question. And you get there by having an electromagnetic mass driver on the moon with robots, with Optimi, and obviously lots of humans. And with that, you can send a petawatt. You can create a petawatt of compute and send that to deep space. Because on the moon has no atmosphere and has 1/6 Earth gravity. So you don't need rockets on the moon. You can literally accelerate it to escape velocity from the surface. And that dramatically drops the costs, once again, of harnessing power and enables you to go 1,000 times bigger than a terawatt. So for sure the future I want to see, I want to just live long enough to see the mass driver on the moon, because that's going to be incredibly epic. Yeah. That should hopefully get us to a millionth of the sun's energy at least. Humbling to think about that. But a millionth of the sun's energy would be a million times bigger than Earth's economy, so it's good from that perspective. And then, yeah, you expand beyond that to the planets, to the other stars, and create the most exciting possible future that I can imagine. So. This looks a bit like the opening in Idiocracy with Mike Judge. Unlocking an age of amazing abundance. Yeah, obviously the elements of that are sustainable energy, space travel, and AI and robotics that bring amazing abundance to everyone. It's really the only path to amazing abundance is AI and robotics, which is not to say it can't go wrong. Hopefully, but I think it'll probably go right, and it'll be a future that you love. It's the best future I can think of, at least. So. And then we go beyond the moon, beyond Mars, and we sail through the rings of Saturn. Now, wouldn't it be amazing if you could buy a trip to Saturn? Or frankly, if you just have a trip to Saturn, I think things will just be free in the future. It sounds nuts, but if you've got an AI robotics economy that is anywhere close to 1 million times the size of the current Earth economy, literally any need you possibly want can be met. If you can think of it, you can have it. So I think Ian Banks, in his culture books, has it pretty much right, where there actually isn't money in the future, and there's abundance for everyone. If you can think of it, you can have it. That's it. Which means anyone could have a trip to Saturn. It won't be, just a few people. If you want it, you can have it. Yeah. So, yeah, join us on this journey, and help us design incredible chips and make incredible chips and build a terawatt of chips, a terawatt of solar, and 10 million tons to orbit per year. Thank you.